Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Welcome into the podcast. I'm Luke Stuckmeyer. Cody and Ryan are both here, and they are still the first place Chicago Cubs after one series and the last place Milwaukee Brewers, I believe, correct? Can we double check that fact?
Yeah,
fact.
Sources say. Sources say.
Sources tell me first place, last place.
It's funny. Everyone in the press box got a kick out of after Saturday. I said the Cubs are undefeated in the CHGO
That's
era.
true.
The press box got a kick out of that one. But no, yeah, I mean 2-1. We talked about it, like what would be a good series. Obviously, when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, it was a 4-game series.
Right.
Ended up being 3, and we talked, splitting the series would be very impressive. So taking 2 out of 3, especially against Corbin Burnes, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta, and touching them. It's not like they got through that and then touched up the bullpen. No, they touched up 3 really good starters.
13 runs.
Yeah, so that was a very impressive, just an impressive series, and we'll get a little more into what was so impressive about it. But no, I mean, obviously 2-1 to start the year, tied with the Cardinals, I think, for the division lead right now. I mean,
we're already paying attention to the standings, baby.
I mean, but I think that's
would have been nice to sweep. Had the opportunity. But you have to feel good about being the first 2 guys.
Oh, I mean, just coming out of the series with 2 wins, regardless of who they were pitching or who they did it off of, coming out of that series with 2 wins is a big step in the right direction, or good, getting off on the right foot to start the year for sure.
Yeah, man. Being at 2 of the 3 games this weekend, I mean, it was refreshing. It was refreshing to watch how that offense operated. Obviously Seiya Suzuki mashing that home run yesterday, sitting in the left field bleachers and seeing it live was awesome. But I remember when he hit it, and then I tweeted from my personal account, was just hidden in the legend of Seiya Suzuki is the first 2 guys that got on after, because it all happened with 2 outs in the inning already. I can't remember who the 2 guys before him that got on, but I know one of them was via the walk, and I think someone got hit by a pitch or something like that. Someone can correct me on that. But
what? Someone got hit by a pitch this last series?
That's for later discussion.
Was it just one,
momentarily.
Or a couple?
We'll talk about that.
But a loss. When the Suzuki home run happened, it kind of that was the entire series, was the Cubs batters being super patient and just, not swinging at bad pitches. And I know that's easier said than done, but they consistently did it over the weekend. It was fun to watch, man. It was absolutely fun to watch. And the amount of times they had guys in scoring position and they didn't strike out like we'd seen in previous years. Again, it was just super refreshing. So for me, that's my biggest takeaway from the weekend, is just this offense. Yeah, there's not there's no proven names in there at all, but their team approach on offense at the plate seems consistent, and it's different
too.
Yeah.
Your biggest takeaway from the weekend is the sunburn. Let's be honest.
I didn't know.
According to how many times did I tell him SPF at spring training?
You can. I think it's when it's cloudy, the sunburn is worse or something.
Just
like
as
that.
bad. Well, you just don't think it's going to be bad. Yeah.
I've always been told. I don't really sunburn though.
I really didn't
get
think
tan.
I'd sunburn in April. Yeah, but I guess that's what happens when you sit in left field.
Yeah, but you mentioned the offense too. Jordan Bastion tweeted it earlier. At least right now, the Cubs have the 3rd lowest swinging strike percentage in Major League Baseball out of the chute, first 3 games. And I think that, that's just different than what the Cubs, the last few years is always it felt like it was, what's the term? It's just all or nothing.
Right.
It was a home
Boomer
run,
bust.
home run,
Boomer
launch
bust.
angle, or strikeout. And that's why when you'd always talk about when you got guys runners in scoring position or runners on base, it just felt like everyone strikeout. No, you don't score like that. You score off the home runs, and that was it. The Cubs did that a little differently this series, and that was more of it's clearly a different makeup of a lineup, and whether that continues, we'll definitely talk about. But that's the first 3 games of the series. You see it, and you're like, that's that's an old school lineup.
Tristan Wells says in the comments that it was Villar and Rivas. VR. I'm going to get it right eventually.
VR walked, Rivas singled, and then Suzuki homered.
Okay.
That was after also Rafael Ortega.
He tried to steal base and then was thrown out.
What I was gonna say is like it's so funny that a lot of us had our Ortega, justified or not, off the projected opening day roster, and then he leads off the first 3 games and walks to lead off the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Against again Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Pro. Like that is, I mean, again, that's how you set the table, and we haven't had a lot of that, consistently. And who knows if he can do it consistently? But just since Fowler, consistently just putting good at bats together, getting on base to start the game. You haven't had that a lot in the last few years.
You mentioned it, and I know that Corey and Brendan talked about it on their series recap podcast as well, that, the contact and putting the ball in play, the idea is that hopefully instead of highs and lows, peaks and valleys, boom or bust, you get something a little bit more average down the middle, and hopefully you don't have those big dips in the offense. So, that's the idea. So the first series worked out perfectly, and I think Ortega was a good example, but nobody highlighted that more than Seiya Suzuki. The home run was great. He had 4 hits, 4 walks, 3 hits, 4 walks, and 6 RBI in the series.
Like that, yeah.
That's impressive, but for me, it was all summed up in all the P words: poise, patience, precision. He was all of those things. Power, a little bit of power, right? Yeah. Putting it in play, all of those things. He sits at the plate and he will strike out looking, but he's not going to swing out of the zone. Yeah. Not very often, and that was the great stat from MLB Random Stats today. 29 pitches he faced out of the zone in the first 3 games. He took 28 of those 29 pitches out of the zone. The one that he did chase was an RBI single off of Woodruff.
Yeah.
A 3.1% chase rate, and there's only 3 players under 5 in baseball after the first weekend. So that's the guy. That's why they zeroed in on him in free agency. We wanted to see what's he going to be like, and this doesn't mean he's going to stay like this forever, because we all know that Major League Baseball is about adjustments.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But that approach out of the gate will get him a hot start, because that's what they're looking for, and he's not going to – the poise is what really impresses me so much, because there's so many reasons he could come in and be totally overwhelmed by Major League Baseball, by Wrigley Field in the sun on the weekend, by his first Major League home run could send him over the edge, and swinging big on the next time to plate, he sticks with the same approach every time. Mm-hmm. Even the broken bat one was a great approach, right?
Well, I was going to say, on opening day, his very first Major League at bat against Corbin Burns, he walked.
Yeah.
That's poise. He didn't come up there swinging for the fences or anything like that. And your first Major League at bat, opening day at Wrigley Field against one of the best pitchers in the league. He knows it's a reigning NL Cy Young Award winner, and he walked. Again, that approach is fantastic.
Well, and then when we did our roundtable last week, remember, go look at allchgo.com if you haven't seen it, but it's kind of late now. But I said that we kind of talked about early expectations for Seiya Suzuki, and I said, he's not. He's hitting 375 out of the gate, which is great. But I'm as far as how the early season goes, making those adjustments when the pitchers start adjusting to him, can he do that? I said, if his average or his slugging percentage isn't too high, that's okay, because as long he's been touted for being a very disciplined hitter and having a very solid plate approach, and that's not something that gets adjusted. Corbin Burns is going to come back, and what I'm trying to say is that you don't lose that plate approach. You have that plate approach. If it's really good, you're just going to be really good regardless of the adjustments pitchers make to you.
Right.
And you see that again, the 2 walks. He said he was most proud of the 2 walks and on Thursday, but just all the stats out there, the low chase rate, the whatever it is, you can tell that he has a very good plate approach out of the gate, and he's not getting overwhelmed by Major League pitching, regardless of, he said, the cutter. He'd never seen a cutter like that before from Corbin Burns, but that plate approach is just, it's there, and that doesn't go away. You don't lose that unless you start tinkering with things, and from what I get from Seiya Suzuki, that's he knows his plate approach. He's not swinging, even if he has a few strikeout or called strike threes, which he did yesterday. I think he had one more on Saturday. I think you take that, because he's not chasing. He's not going to swing. He knows the edge of the zone, and if he takes a couple of of borderline pitches for called strike 3. That's better than, he's trying to hit anything that's close to the zone and he's chasing out of the zone. So I think that plate approach has already translated, and I don't see that changing.
He's also having fun, which is a crazy combination.
Doing
he's meticulous in that. The bow going around for the
him
home
and
run
Willie
great.
Harris,
Yeah,
man.
Willie Harris.
That, my friends, is a vibe. I'm all about it.
He did that Willie
Get a
Harris.
picture of it, hang it in the office, hang it in the Art Institute.
Yep.
That shit riles me up.
He did that with Willie Harris running third. He did that with VR and Rivas at home plate. It's just, yeah, I mean, he's definitely having fun. You see the pictures, him smiling, him loving it. And another thing outside of how well he did at the plate and right field, April at Wrigley Field, that's no joke. That's hard. And obviously Jason Hayward, Gold Glove right fielder, is there to kind of help him, but he's not. He made some good plays. He had good reads, good jumps, and he didn't really make any mistakes out in right field, which is he's already.
It's a tough right field compared to other right fields in baseball.
Yeah.
And I love the bow, and I also love the video or the cameras catching him cleaning up the on deck circle after everyone had just a mess on the on deck circle. And he's stacking the bottle of powder. He's putting the donut to the side.
There was another one we noticed in the press box. I forgot who pointed it out, but he was going from the on. Or I don't remember if he was maybe he had walked and then he was going to run to first base and he was going to run in front of the base and noticed that the catcher had gotten up and was doing whatever with the pitcher, and so he politely went around the catcher and the umpire. I'm he's again, Cubs fans already seem to love Seiya Suzuki, and he just keeps doing things that make everyone just love him, I guess.
You know who had the second best weekend besides Suzuki?
You went to 2 games and got a little sun.
I had a great weekend, but I didn't have a good as weekend as Ian Happ before.
Ian Happ was having a good one.
I had a good weekend. I put 6 stories on allchgo.com. Go check them out. But yeah, Ian Happ
nice
did
plug,
have a good one.
A good plug. But yeah, Ian Happ. Dude, I mean, before he got hit, which again we will talk about, and I'm going to tell you why Keegan Thompson should be Chicago mayor. But Ian Happ was having a great series, and to me, we kind of saw on Sunday what that lineup was without him there. The Cubs struck out more on Sunday. Again, the Brewers bullpen was a lot better on Sunday, and Peralta, after giving up the Suzuki homer, he kind of settled in after that. But I think with Ian Happ looked like how he was playing those last 45 games of the year in those first 2 games, and that's a good sign for the Cubs, not only for this year, but for the future too, because I don't know about you guys, but last year I was on the fence of do we even tender this guy a contract? You know what I mean?
I thought there was a chance they might not.
Right.
To be totally honest with you. I
right.
thought that was possible.
And, again, only been a couple games, 2 games, but I love the approach. He's clearly seeing the ball well up there. So, I'm rooting for him, man. I want him to, if he plays like he did those first 2 games, starting tomorrow, I assume he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow, that is a great sign for the Cubs and their future.
I mean, things you want to see this season, we've talked about it for over a month now. When you looked at, okay, you want to see what Happ can really do. You want to see what you have in Suzuki. You want to see what you have when Ethan Roberts gets his shot. You want to see what you have in Justin Steele. You want to see Nico Horner step up. In the first series, you had all those things in a positive direction. In fact, you had 4 homegrown pitchers combining for a shutout.
All drafted by Theo Epstein, I
right?
believe.
But I mean, there weren't too many negatives in the first 3 games. I'm not saying the whole season's going that way. It's not going to be all cherries on top.
Right.
But it was a positive sign to see out of the gate that a lot of the things that you're looking for were pluses.
Yeah.
3 games in, and that's great news for the Cubs.
Right.
Yeah, I also, the Ian Happ thing, it was funny. We were, Tony Andracki tweeted something about Ian Happ, his stats from the first whatever. And I asked him, what's he projected for the season? Saturday, Tony.
I saw Tony tweet.
Yeah,
Marquee.
I don't know. I don't remember if these have changed because I don't know if Happ had gotten another at bat or anything. But so on Saturday, he said Ian Happ is on pace for 405 hits and 324 RBIs in 2022. Tony Andracki
I believe a record.
Network, but that would certainly put him in the NL MVP voting. I don't know, but Ian Happ had a great weekend prior to the hit by pitch, which I guess we'll talk about.
We keep like hinting it.
Let's just talk about it.
But he had a great weekend at the plate, and he feels good. He had a good spring too, so it just feels like if that again. You mentioned the end of 2021, and he carried that in the spring, even after the elbow surgery and stuff, carried that in the spring, and then he's gotten it through his first 2 games of the season. So again, you kind of just hope that gets taken in, because if we've talked about it, the Cubs could maybe make a run at one of those wild cards if a lot of things go right. And one of those things is Ian Happ playing up to what he can play to. Yeah. And so far, first 2 games, that's the Ian Happ that the Cubs will need throughout this season to have a chance at making that playoff.
Yeah.
Is Ferris saying Hendricks?
Yeah, Ferris said it.
Struggling again?
Hendricks
What?
is struggling again, and I'm like, Hendricks pitched great on opening day.
He was fantastic.
No, yeah.
We talked about it a lot on the
great.
Friday show.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bill says they should give the 5th starter as reward to Keegan for what he did.
We haven't talked about Stroman yet. He was pretty good yesterday. It wasn't his fault that the Cubs lost. That's for sure.
Nope.
And he loved being at Wrigley too.
Yeah, no, I love showed the glove with the that line drive back to him or whatever. That was a big play because it got him out of a little bit of a jam there, and I wasn't expecting too much in his first start. With the whole with pitchers still getting ramped up, and so I was genuinely hoping for 5 strong innings. That's all I was hoping, and that's what I got. So yeah, I don't know about you guys.
I don't know. I just know that the other story of the weekend was the beanball.
Yeah.
And the benches clearing. I mean, there were a lot of storylines, but that one was the most glaring for me outside of Suzuki. And
I loved your tweet. What did you say? Hit them all?
Well, the first one I just jokingly said hit them all because it was like the reaction by McCutchen was an overreaction, even though he hadn't been on the team. My follow-up tweet was this. The Brewers are allegedly the best pitching staff in the National League.
Right.
They just happen to suck against Wilson Contreras. I find that impossible.
I'll let Cody take it. And then
it's not like he's standing with 2 feet over the plate.
No.
You're throwing at Wilson Contreras, and it might not be all 15 times you're throwing at him. If you're throwing inside, their argument's going to be like he's close to the plate. We like to pitch him inside. Okay, but if you can't pitch inside, at some point, as another Major League Baseball player, you have to say, well, we seem to be hitting him a lot. Maybe we shouldn't go quite as inside if we don't have that control. Mm-hmm. It's a garbage move. You can't hit a guy 15 times and not expect him to be angry.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And do I think the Cubs retaliated? Yes. I mean, 100% they retaliated. And frankly, they should have done it before that.
Yeah. And that leads
I'll get to that.
That leads
to Yelich.
This is why Keegan Thompson should be Chicago mayor, because he showed that not only does he, but the Cubs have as I said online, a goddamn backbone. Like, when you get hit that many times, or just that storyline keeps getting brought up every time you play that team, I think Keegan Thompson was just like, I've had enough. Or maybe they discussed it in the dugout beforehand. I don't know. I genuinely don't really care. I just like the fact that the Cubs went out there and showed that they had some sort of like I said, backbone. I'm trying to think of another word that goes with it.
Well, you can't, listen, put it the other way. Let's say they don't respond at all. You're going to let the season's tone be set that way?
Exactly,
You're gonna let him hit him 2 more times, and then you're going to drill Happ in the knee, and you're going to be like, oh, we're cool with it.
He could care less whenever they tossed him. He walked off the mound like blowing bubble gum. Like he did not care that he got tossed. I'm with you, Luke. I don't think anyone who actually is trying to justify that he didn't do that on purpose, like, I don't know what you're drinking. I'll take some of that juice, though. But at the same time, like...
Also, McCutchen thinks they were trying to hurt him.
Right.
You got hit in the butt, man.
Right, exactly.
That's not what he said.
That's
not what he said.
I thought he said...
No, he said that in the sense of, like, you're trying to make me think by not hitting me on the first pitch, you're trying to make me think that you're pitching to me, and then you go and hit me, could get me hurt. Like,
get me hurt.
Go ahead, let Cody.
He wasn't the right guy to hit necessarily, but I'll tell you why they hit him.
Let Cody finish. I'll bring what I have brought.
Again, like, my main point is that the Cubs, they when you get hit 3 times in the game and the third guy who gets hit is arguably the best player that you have, and he was down for significant minutes. We at that point didn't know what was going to happen to Ian Happ. I know I was in left field thinking, oh my gosh, like he was having such a great season, he might be out a while, and thankfully he's not. But in that moment, it's like you got to go out there and show that, like, show a backbone, show whatever. And again, I'm not someone who likes the unwritten rules of baseball. I don't like throwing at people on purpose. But in this instance, I don't think there's a bad side to be on if you agree or disagree with that. Like, it's more of just showing the other team that, hey, we're tired of this. And again, I know you're going to have your stats and all of that stuff. To me,
I'll bring my objective.
To me, it's like the people who are always like the Cubs players, at least, that are always the ones getting hit are whether it's the old core, or Wilson Contreras. And it just seems like the Brewers forget how to pitch whenever the Cubs' best players are at the plate. Call me a homer. I don't care. That's just how it feels. So, again, I didn't do any research. I'm just sitting here ranting. That's my role here.
That's true.
Okay, go ahead.
That's true. I was gonna say, so where I'm coming from is the Wilson Contreras debate is one thing, and I think both him and Ian Happ both said, we talked to them both, and both said, like, they don't think the Brewers are trying to hit anyone on the Cubs on purpose. Like, they're not going up there in the fourth inning or whatever. Fourth inning is when Wilson Contreras got hit, and it wasn't 9-0 at that point. They weren't going up there purposely hitting Wilson Contreras because, like, gotta get him. They both said that the scouting report is very likely to pitch them inside, and like you guys said, they're supposed to be the best pitching staff, one of the best in the majors. And that's what Wilson's saying. He's like, I get it. You're throwing me inside. That's different. That's one thing. But if you are coming inside and can't command that, and you keep hitting me, then that's a separate issue. And and that's where Wilson is
100% right.
Yeah, and where Wilson's like, I don't think they were hitting me on purpose, but they're pitching me inside. That's probably part of the scouting report. Ian Happ said the same thing because he mentioned, like Javi and KB, same thing. Were probably part of their scouting report was to pitch them in. I didn't do the numbers on them, but maybe they got hit more often, like you said, than some of the other Cubs. The one thing I will say is when it comes to the overall, like there was that number floating around, the Brewers have hit the Cubs 27 times since the beginning of 2020, and that's the most any team's hit any other team. The Cubs have hit them 26 times in the same time frame. They came into this season having both hit each other 23 times. And so just looking at the objective lens, like, sure, you can be mad that Wilson Contreras has gotten hit 15 times by the Brewers in his career, but when you're going to use that 27 stat and just completely ignore the fact that the Cubs have hit them one less time and the exact same amount of times coming into Thursday, that's where I'm like.
But Ryan,
again,
if
the objective
15 of the 26 are against Wilson Contreras, who happens to be the most emotional guy on the team, something stinks.
Well, and that's why
I'm not saying it's not. I would agree that some of them are pitching inside.
Yes,
I also believe some of them are drilling Wilson Contreras.
But that's also where I'm saying
maybe
is
not these last
the Wilson
two.
Contreras 15 times is a separate issue. But if you're going to come up and say the Brewers hit us more times than anyone, you hit them just about as many times in the last two plus seasons.
But Christian Yelich hasn't been hit 15 times.
Yeah.
That's but
also Wilson Contreras got hit in the head last year.
Anyway, and then the other point is, so if Keegan Thompson, again, I guess we talk about Wilson Contreras being a separate issue than just the 27 times. Exactly. If Keegan Thompson is Ross, Keegan, Wilson said no one said that Keegan Thompson hit him on purpose. So as a reporter, I'm just saying what they said. McCutchen believes it's separate. It's a different issue. Whatever you believe, if in fact Keegan Thompson did hit Andrew McCutchen on purpose, he didn't hit him in retaliation for Wilson Contreras. Because Wilson Contreras got hit in the 4th inning. Andrew McCutchen got hit in the 8th. He had 2 different opportunities in between that time to hit McCutchen and didn't. So it happened if it's in retaliation, it happened because Ian Happ got hit, which, okay.
Yes.
It's retaliation.
Because it was the third guy that was hit.
But then that comes into what you're retaliating for, just the overall, they're hitting us 27 times. Okay, but you've hit them just as many times. That's where I'm like, I'm just looking at it objectively. It's like if you're gonna, you can't. But no, I'm saying you can't.
Two teams. Let's just take 2 teams. Forget the 2 team names. One team has been hit 3 times in the first 3 games, and one of the guys that was hit twice is a guy that they've now hit 15 times in a season. I don't care what team B is, the team that's being hit. if they've been hit 3 times, they are 100% going to police the game the way baseball is policed.
No argument against that. Like
it's
again,
just, right? If the roles were reversed, I would expect the Brewers to then go and hit
done that, of course,
whoever.
100%. But I'm just saying in the fact of like, you see, and then it's Twitter. So Twitter is where, this is the biggest cesspool in the world. But it's like you're trying to like merge all these different arguments. Like, no, the Wilson Contreras 15-time argument is separate than it should be separate than the 27 times overall. It should be. It should be separate because if you're going to go just overall hitting, the Cubs do it too. But the Wilson Contreras, I agree. That's 15 times is a lot. And so if their scouting report is to go inside on Wilson Contreras, maybe they should rethink that because they are hitting him a lot.
Yes.
They are. And if it's just solely based on they're just going him inside and losing control, well, then maybe you should work on your inside command. That's one thing. It's just the
entire thing. Yeah. My 2 cents on what I said has everything to do with the fact that in that game alone, the Cubs were hit 3 times. And by the time that Thompson threw at McCutchen, there was 3-1
allegedly threw.
It was 3-1 at that time in terms of guys being hit. I just thought it was, again, in that game alone, when you take all the history out, in that game alone, I thought it was an okay thing to do because, again, when you add in the history, whatever, to me, it's just like Luke said, setting the tone for the season, setting the tone for obviously this rivalry has increased over the last few years. I was in left field. No one was letting letting Christian Yelich forget about what he said to Yu Darvish and how he sucks since then. Like, it is what it is. To me, that is what it is. I'm not encouraging throwing at people on purpose. You throw a baseball at someone's head there was a game this weekend.
It could be life or death.
Right. Like there was a game this weekend. I think it was the Mets and the Nationals. There was a guy for the Nationals who threw at the Mets. Was it Lindor and Pete Alonso?
Yeah, they both.
I don't know anything about the pitcher for the Nationals, and I don't know if it was on purpose, and I hope it wasn't. But again, that's a lot different than what we saw at Wrigley. There's definitely a lot of it has to do with history and just the intensifying of how this rivalry has become. And I'm here for it, man. As much as I laugh at the little brother syndrome that Milwaukee brings us, I still don't like them. So whatever.
No.
Badlands has a good comment on here. I think we just scrolled past it, but it was the number's close because the Cubs have to retaliate every year. No, the only thing that was missing from this for me after McCutchen came out was the Brewers pulling a Milwaukee Bucks and showing a Grayson Allen Instagram post the next day.
That would have got people riled up.
I was thinking, man, if they post now, if the Bucks post something, or if the Brewers do, if there's a Grayson Allen post, or if the Brewers go with a shot of Wilson getting hit or something, then all hell's gonna break loose.
People would have got pissed.
Instead, today the Brewers posted that they have $4 tickets.
$4 tickets for 4. Oh, man.
Sounds like Milwaukee.
It's a deal.
But no, again, going back to it, I agree that Wilson Contreras getting hit 15 times is a lot, and I think no one will argue that, especially over the last
2 years.
Yeah, two, and then the next 2 games, whatever it is. It's 10 times I think total since the beginning of 2020. It's 10. That is a lot. And again, we said if they're throwing purposely inside, not hitting him on purpose, but the scouting report,
they need to adjust their scouting report.
You need to work on that. Work with your pitchers on commanding that inside.
And again,
fastball.
my thing is we're talking about what's supposed to be the best pitching staff in the National League. Yeah. If you can't throw inside without hitting the guy,
there's something that should be adjusted for that. Sure,
for sure.
But then when I say is and then I maybe that's just me looking at it as in the objective way is that's one argument and that's one thing that we should be talking about. And again. The Brewers, if they're throwing inside and hitting Contreras, fix that because you're hitting him a lot. But the separate issue is the 27 versus 26, which is both teams do it. And sure, maybe the Cubs have retaliated a couple times. I'm sure if you go back into it, the Brewers inflated their numbers a little bit, retaliating against the Cubs. It's just that those are 2 separate issues to me. And when you're trying to merge them together, it just kind of feels a little bit of hypocritical in there a little bit, but I don't know the right word, but it's just those are 2 separate issues.
Being
to me,
objective, Ryan.
I think they should be treated as such.
I will again. My my final 2 cents is I don't think that the Brewers were throwing at Cubs players on purpose. They just need to learn how to pitch better. And until then I don't blame guys like Keegan Thompson for throwing at their guys, because what else is going to get them to stop? It's not like the MLB is holding anything against anyone for doing it. So whatever, man.
Phil with a good comment. If hit by pitch was a 2-base penalty, would it stop?
If it put someone in scoring
Well, the
position?
retaliation would, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And the doing it just to get back at somebody a couple weeks later would also stop.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't even want to do it with 2 outs.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's a great point.
Put someone in scoring position.
Like if Major League Baseball wants to put an
Police
end to
it,
it, do
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Do I think Major League Baseball will though?
No, they
can't
like the
say I will.
storylines.
I don't know that Major League Baseball will look at the hit by pitch as something that needs to be addressed.
By the way, a lot of people knock Jason Hayward, and I know for a lot of reasons he's the first guy running in there, and that's the type of leadership they're looking for. I'm not saying to start a fight or any of those things. The fact that he came in to defend his guys all the way from center field on a sprint, my hat was off.
That's true.
Yeah. As much
Tip
as
of the cap, and I
that's-
guarantee you the teammates appreciated
That's
it.
what on Corey and Brennan's show too. Corey's like, as much as I talk about Jason
Yeah.
Hayward being in the lineup, blah blah blah, like him sprinting out. And that's
You know how
like-
many people
that
were
is
like,
far.
yeah, Jay Hay.
Yeah, the people
All
that,
the people that have been like, just
hate
get him
him.
out of here. DFA him.
Yeah.
He's the worst. Man, in that moment, he was their favorite player on the Cubs.
That's him. It's like Jay Hay. He ran from center field, got in front. Was in front of that line. Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
He didn't react on that Saturday one. The one few innings before McCutcheon. He didn't react to. He just kind of. You could see he was kind of annoyed about it, but he just took his his elbow guard off and left. When McCutcheon got hit, Contreras was right there in front of him. just making sure you're gonna have to go through me to get to the mound if you want. But it's just like those two guys. Again, we've talked about like how much the veterans on this Cubs team are gonna have to kind of carry into this new era and make that transition seamless. It's those two guys right there, and you could just see in the 8th that those two were the first ones at the front in between the rest of their team and the Brewers, and it's
Yeah.
what you need to see.
Jay Hay actually had a decent weekend at the plate too. So I mean, again, I'm hoping he can get back to 2019, 2020 level as far as the bat. But yeah, you love to see that leadership. There was a few times out in the outfield with him and Suzuki. I know I think there was a ball that Suzuki lost in the sun, and Jay Hay was there to pick him up. I've always said this about Jay Hay. He's a true professional, a veteran that anyone should want on their team. Like, he brings all those intangibles, and just it sucks to talk about the contract. That's
if he was
really
making
it.
the veteran minimum, everyone would love him.
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Cubs Twitter would
love him.
adore
He
Jason
would be a legend.
We've got our mailbag coming up from the members-only Discord here in the next couple segments. We do want to quickly touch on some of the former Cubs getting off to good starts. I mean, Schwarber first at bat in Philly, right?
Yeah.
And then Rizzo's got 2 homers,
I believe so.
the first for the Yankees, I want to say.
and Javi beats the White Sox.
Yeah.
In Javi fashion, where it's some sort of bizarre, it's always got to be some
Something
kind of crazy.
It was. I don't know.
It
if
should have
the
been
Sox-
caught,
I
but
don't
it
know
was
if the
still a
Sox
crazy
guys are
Javi
still
play.
here. I don't think the Sox guys are still
No,
here.
they're
But the
gone.
Javi play, it was just chef's kiss. Because I don't know about you guys. I live on the internet, and for the last 3-4 years, I've had to listen to Sox Twitter talk about how Javi Baez is just a trash player, and he is just so easy to get out. All you do is throw slider away, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. And it's like, they got a taste of that mess. Like, they literally welcomed him to the Central. They were like, oh, we're going to own this guy. And I'm like, I understand that Javi Baez has a lot of flaws. Believe me. In a way, I'm kind of glad he's not on the Cubs, just because I just don't know if he's going to age well and all that nonsense. But as far as just kind of them getting a taste of that humbleness, it was just kind of nice. I'm not sitting on here, and I'm not a giant hater of the White Sox or anything. But it was just kind of nice to see them.
Here, at least.
Yeah, it's just kind of nice to see them get a little taste of humble pie. It was again. That's all I got.
Maybe Hendricks should have taken Herb's advice and thrown him the outside slider, because
For
that
sure.
was like a meatball. I think he threw him a meatball
Yeah.
that Javi ended up walking it
Yeah,
off.
that's
on,
true.
Maybe
That's
he should have
very
taken
true.
Herb's advice. But
That's very true.
I wonder what the points bet odds are right now on Contreras getting hit in the next Brewers series.
I wouldn't have it at plus money, that's for sure. But speaking of points bet, I had what did I have on Saturday that hit? I think it was Nico Horner to get a hit, -125.
Didn't put the home run prop on him though.
I did not. Not on opening day.
That was the big money one.
But yeah, that was my one winner from yesterday's game. And I did it on PointsBet. The best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you. Remember that PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new exclusive feature, live NBA same-game parlay. The NBA playoffs are coming up, so it's gonna be fun to get into. For the first time ever, build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. You can even boost your live same-game You can even boost your live same-game parlays.
There you go.
It's a sunburn. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's my face, guys.
Affected his head.
And now, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish. I say it every show. If Luke can do it, all of you can do it, so get on that. Signing up with the fastest sportsbook is now easier than ever. You can start living your bet life in seconds. Use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
CHGO, we got you covered for the podcast, the live shows, every team, every day. Post-game shows. We'll have pre-game before the game tomorrow. And also before the game on Thursday, we'll have pre-game shows, post-game shows after every one of them. Premium written content for the members, all CHGO.com. How many did you put out this weekend?
At least 6, maybe 7.
Ryan, at least 6.
Ryan's grinding, baby.
Yeah. That's why he's so swole today. He's been typing
rocking
like
the
this
new
all week.
CHGO shirt, just showing off the arms.
Speaking of dope merch, it's starting to come in. Somehow Ryan got the dope merch. Mine's not here yet.
Thanks, Mom.
Free shirt when you become a member in the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge, which brings us to our second segment, our first ever mailbag from the Discord Members Lounge, right?
Yeah.
These are the people wearing the velvet robes.
Everybody's
sitting in their smoking robes, the velour robe, CHGO logo on it. We're going to get you someday.
And typing in some questions. There you go.
Typing in some questions. We got some, so we opened it up to the mailbag today.
One hand doing the questions, one hand smoking the cigar.
That's right. Or pipe. A lot of these people smoke a pipe for sure. And I mean like a tobacco pipe, like the long hook kind.
I believe it.
Like Inspector Clouseau.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know what you mean now. All right. Okay.
I'm with you.
What do we got?
You understand where I was coming from?
Yeah.
Oh, just making sure. All right. More to Score wants to know, who is one under-the-radar player you believe has the potential to see this rebuild through and not get shipped off or let go? We touched on it a little bit, right, before the season started, I think it was. We talked about, we went through almost every guy in the roster. I think there's a lot of guys that are on that list that they're the question marks, the X factors on this team. That's why I say, you can't rule out this team as a wild card or a playoff team because we just don't know what you're going to get out of some of these guys.
And I think we limit this to active roster too. Any of these guys that are on the active roster.
Active roster. And
it has to be under the radar. Everyone knows about the prospect.
But I think you're also looking at guys under 30 most likely, because I think the older you get, the less likely you are to be part of that next group unless you are just exceptional at a great discounted rate. Because if you're having a good season and you're not at that discounted rate and you're older, then you are more likely to be a guy that's traded to a team that's looking for an extra bat or an extra arm or something at the deadline.
I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
He got a couple. He didn't have a big weekend or anything, but I am interested to see. I do like how Rossi used him in the second and third game. But Michael Hermosillo is 26 or 27. And he didn't just play center. He played corner outfield too. He played a little left field.
Pinch hit against lefties
on Saturday, and he's going to pinch hit against lefties. Well, that and then on Sunday, Ortega started the game, and then Hermosillo pinch hit for him once they took Peralta out and brought a lefty in, and then Hermosillo stayed in the rest of the game. So Hermosillo is going to see a lot of lefties, and then I could see a lot of like what we saw today. But he'll earn some starts too, especially if he hits. And I felt like he's had good at bats in the few that we saw this weekend. As the season goes along, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. But he is younger. He is someone who I think has something to. If the next great Cubs team, maybe he's a guy off the bench. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he's a late bloomer. I don't know. But I do kind of like the type of player that he is. He's athletic. He clearly shows that he can hit. Like I've talked about before, he mashed in AAA last year. Should have been called up earlier, got hurt, but was able to come back and played until he got hurt again. So if he can stay healthy and, contribute in the role that he's in, I could see him on this team for, the next, couple years, earn himself another deal with the Cubs. So that's who I like. Yeah. As far as like an under the radar player that I feel like no one's really talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Alfonso Rivas. Yeah. I think a lefty bat, which the Cubs, again, we've talked about it, just why he should even be on this year's team. Mm-hmm. A lefty bat, the Cubs don't have a bunch of them. Can play both corner outfield positions, can play first base, has a solid bat, is a solid defender. Do I think he's going to break out and become the starting first baseman of the future? Probably not. But I think if you had, again, we've talked how David Ross loves versatility in defending, players that can play multiple positions. That's what this team has a lot of. And I think having a guy that can play first base, which they don't have a ton of, and a guy that can play both corner outfields in a pinch, I think that's a guy that can be a solid, bench piece or a solid depth piece, going through the next couple of years until that next great Cubs team comes.
I would say and this is something I said before the season started, Clint Frazier, because his ceiling is so high, I think he meant out of the guys that will have question marks, he may have the highest ceiling for potential just because of his pedigree. But the name that I would say out of this, Ian Happ. Is he under the radar? Of course. Of course he's under the radar. Nobody went into the season talking about Ian Happ. Ian Happ is part of the future. We just mentioned that we thought he might get DFA'd by the team at one point. Ian Happ is under the radar. Now, we started to talk about him more before the season started in our season preview and stuff, but I think a lot of fans around the country have written off Ian Happ, and I think that chip may be on his shoulder. He's still a first-round guy who has put it together for half a season and then not the next half, or vice versa, or an injury has bothered him, or he's changed positions. A lot of things have gone on with him, but we've seen bursts of what Ian Happ can be like as a major league player. And if he does put it together, if he plays like he's played in the first, 2 games, or even somewhere close to that, Ian Happ's going to be on this. He's young enough. He's going to be on this roster when the team gets good. We have no idea. Until he puts together an entire season, it's going to be tough to judge that. But do I think Ian Happ is considered under the radar at this point? Yes. I don't think he was under the radar when he came up to the majors.
Right.
He was on the radar. That's when
2017.
But he's had enough struggles and inconsistency that he's kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. And everybody's already talking about the next outfield guys that are coming in. And when Brendan Davis comes in, and I'm as guilty as anyone, I've already been talking about Frazier's, the guy in left field. Don't forget about Ian Happ.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, and then
you're right whenever you're talking about going into this season. I mean,
that's true.
Well, let's all, everyone going into the series, I don't think anyone genuinely really thought the Cubs would win a game in this series. I'm just being real. Fair. Like, the only person who thought the Cubs would win a game in this series was me. We all said, wow, if you got a split. Right. And that was before the game got postponed. But then, to not only win 1 but 2 of those 3 games, again, I know it's early, and this is perfect overreaction, whatever. Come back at me in July or whatever, and if I look like a moron, that's fine. I don't care. But yeah, I mean, Ian Happ, if the Cubs manage to find a way to get in that last wild card spot, or even just have a 500 season like Luke predicted, Ian Happ will be a big part of that, because we saw yesterday what that lineup looked like without him. So, Yeah, and he is kind of coming in under the radar. No one was really talking
Yeah.
about him.
He was sent down to AAA at one point.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
It's when you said Ian Happ, I didn't like. I was like under the radar, but as your explanation, sure. I think that's a good pick for that question.
What about I don't. Just real quick, like, is there a minor league player out there that you guys that no one's really talking about? I know everyone's talking about Brandon Davis.
Like, is there a reliever or somebody? I don't think relievers are as likely to be part of that mix if you're in the question mark group, right? Like, those are the guys that a lot of times have great value at the trade deadline. You're not doing well, and you've kind of rebuilt a guy. Your Teperas, your
instead of
Chavez.
instead of going down to like the minors, what Ethan Roberts could fit that. He has some good stuff. That slider's pretty good.
I feel like the casual fan would have him as an under the radar guy, but I feel like guys like us who have heard about him, have been talking about him.
Yeah, but we're also media.
Ross, any of the younger guys, I just don't consider as much under the radar. They're just sort of unknown a little bit.
Yeah, which I think,
and it's to me, it is. In my mind, it's just a slightly different.
Okay.
But a young guy could always be under the radar for sure. If it's not Brendan Davis, they're under the radar.
Yeah, and we don't want to overreact too much to Ethan Roberts. He had the clean ninth inning. I think he hit Christian Yelich, and that was about it.
Yeah, on the foot.
He had the one inning. That was his major league debut, so he's gonna have a long road to prove that he's gonna go through that rebuild. But I think obviously the coaches were excited enough by him to put him on the opening day roster. He hasn't probably done anything to make them second guess that, and his stuff looked good outside of the hit by pitch.
It was a perfect spot for him to come into for his major league debut. It was 9-0.
9-0. They were just a Royal Rumble on the field. Yeah, perfect spot to put him in. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think if the stuff plays like it can, and he the faith that the coaching staff has put in him, he lives up to that. He's a guy. He's young enough that he can see through that rebuild the next 2, 3, 4 years, 108 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
USMO 506 says, will we see a move that boosts the bullpen sooner rather than later?
And Dead Gecko as well. Dead Gecko asks, after 3 games, can we say the bullpen needs to be addressed immediately?
No.
I
say no to both of those.
I love the overreaction to the bullpen because it is literally like clockwork with the Cubs when it comes to the bullpen the last couple of years.
Really only Chavez sort of struggled.
Yeah.
Chavez struggled. Norris gave up that home run, the game-winner home run. But, I don't think we need to overreact to the bullpen yet because, again, we've talked about how they don't have a Craig Kimbrell, so they don't have a 9th-inning guy. And then it's a lot easier when you do have a traditional closer because then you can work. Ross has said it himself. You can work back from that 9th inning and figure out how you're going to put. They don't have that, so they might give Rowan Wick a chance. You saw David Robertson got the save chance on Thursday, I think it was.
Yep.
And right before him was Michael Givens, who has closer experience. He could get chances in the 9th.
I still think he'll lead the league or lead the team in saves.
Rowan Wick,
not the league.
Again, we've talked about him as a potential closing option. Manny Rodriguez, when he comes up, he could be a guy. He's a backhand guy, but there's no need to overreact. It's especially going out and trying to make a trade Ross is still feeling out the bullpen.
Exactly.
And there's no need. There's no way they're gonna look at it like 3 days in. We gotta go see who's in the free agent market. No, they got who they got. Ross is gonna feel it out, and then give him some time to figure it out. If there's
anyone in the bullpen that I guess I could say that I'm a little worried is Rowan Wick because his velo was down in his first appearance.
That's true.
And I don't know why, but he's not hurt though, so that's a positive. Yeah. I'm just hoping that because maybe it was cold, like the weather and stuff like that, maybe that's it. So it's going to be interesting to see what his next appearance goes, how it goes, and what that velo sits at. But yeah, he was hitting 93, 94, and he definitely is a 97, 98 guy. So I'm not sure what was going on with that. But, yeah, and I know Ethan Roberts won't be the only guy who was in AAA last year that we'll see this year. Like I said it, I think I said it last week, I will not be surprised when Ben Leeper gets called up. He is another guy that I'm kind of high on. You mentioned the 4 guys that got that pitched on Saturday, 4 homegrown pitchers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I wish you could just put the camera
all under the
straight
radar,
on me.
by the way.
Just I'm telling you that the Cubs farm system is full of arms. It's hard to believe. I know because they haven't been able to do that in recent history. But they have so many guys coming up, and it's just awesome to get excited about. Like that, for me, that's what I'm really the most excited to see this season is what arms get called, whether it's Killian or whoever. Like outside of even outside of starting pitchers, they have decent relief guys down there as well.
Yeah, I do think that's a little further into the future. But if we're talking about like immediately, I think people are wanting we need to address the bullpen right away.
If somebody, it's not going to be a boost to the bullpen. It'd just be somebody's pitched 2 days in a row and they might go down to AAA, pull somebody up, and kind of slide guys back and forth a little bit.
You think Alec Mills is hurt. But his retroactive to the 4th. So what is that? I'm trying to do the math. The 14th. He'll be back, or he'll be
back in a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't think that he'll have to go down. I mean, we didn't ask Ross, but I don't think he'll have to go down for a minor league assignment. Yeah. So he'll be, back in a few days. Alec Mills will be back. You have guys in AAA that signed, those non-roster invites like the Steven Braults, the Robert Gesellman, guys that in a pinch will get brought up and see what they can do. Eventually, Bradwick will be back. Eventually, Adbert Alzolay will be back.
Yes.
Hopefully, he has his Twitter back by then as well. if you get a DM from Alzolay's old Twitter account, please do not click that link. I'm just going to put that out there. But those guys will be back eventually. But in the near future, it's not the time where Jad and Ross and Tommy Hotovy and they have that conversation. We need new guys in the bullpen. Like it's April 11th. They played 3 games. They're not. That's not going to happen.
All right, let's go. Superfan Rachel.
Rachel,
has
our
2
UK
questions.
Friend?
She's super friend. Any thoughts about Madrigal's position in the lineup? I don't like him at 2. And what did you think of Rossi's bullpen management? The bullpen management I thought was fine. I heard Brendan mention that he wasn't thrilled with where he brought in Norris. But I didn't really have a problem with it early in the season.
In hindsight, when I was, after I looked at the series yesterday, I was like, I bet if Alec Mills was healthy, I feel like he would have been the guy who came in for Justin Steele yesterday or on Saturday, because it would have been a different look, because Justin Steele has a lot more higher velocity. You bring in a guy like Mills for 2-3 innings, just a different look. That's just, obviously we don't know and we'll never know, but that's just my thought. So that would have been allowed Ross to use Keegan Thompson on Sunday in a much more bigger, like high leverage, which Keegan Thompson has done plenty of times out of the bullpen. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. That's my theory. Sure. You know what I mean? I'm if you have thoughts, let me know, Ryan. Sure. But yeah, I mean, as far as the bullpen management, I thought it was fine. It's interesting how he's going about with Wick, Givens, and Robertson. But it's going to be a process. And like I said last week, I think by the end of April, we'll have a good idea of what this bullpen will be. Just got to let it play out, and there's going to be some highs and some lows on it. But, again, that is the one thing that I'm confident in the Cubs being okay with.
Were you cool with Madrigal? That didn't bother me either. I think he's trying, all 3 games he went Ortega, Madrigal. Now, it wouldn't have been that way.
I think Madrigal
on
was
Friday.
Still in the second.
It was going to be rained out, wasn't it?
Well,
if it was rained out, it wasn't going to be Ortega leading off.
It was Frazier, but I think Madrigal was still second in that.
Yeah.
What did he go over?
Right, but I mean the 1-2 combo was. Still
I know
he
only had like a few hits.
He's 1 for 11.
Yeah.
1 walk on Thursday. Only 2 strikeouts though.
Yeah.
I mean, the hitting, the 1 hit and 11 at bats. That's you want to see that improve, but I do think he worked some good counts.
Yeah.
And that's again.
Didn't he walk once or twice?
Yeah, he got.
Not
the
everybody
walk on
can.
Thursday.
I mean, I'm just saying this. Not everybody can have a great first 3 games.
I
think you're taking it the way it happened.
Yeah.
I think
pretty happy with
honestly, it. If you're going to take him out of the 2, then you put Horner up in the 2 and you put Madrigal in the 8 or the 9.
Yeah.
And I understand why people would want to see Nico in the 2 right now because he's hitting better than Madrigal. But I mean. What?
It's also his like first true game action, like real high intensity game.
What, like
June?
May or June?
10 months. I mean, I think, and these questions are great because we just got to the first season or first series, but I also think, like you said, like not everyone's gonna start out of the gate hot. Like that just doesn't happen in baseball. But as long as you're seeing that plate approach, that consistent contact, and not striking out too much, whatever, that's a good sign that the things will start to even out, and his 300 hitting, like he can be might still happen.
A good rule of thumb after 3 games is don't get too high or too low over what you saw. So
you're looking right at me, baby.
However, Cody, I will say if you're going to go too far one direction, you might as well get too excited.
I just like to be optimistic. The team looked way better than what we expected in those first 3 games. Will they be able to sustain it for 162? I don't know. Probably not. If I had to bet on that, I would probably say no on that. But I think, again, it's like kind of like what I said at the beginning of the show. Like the offense, watching the offense play was just refreshing with the lack of strikeouts and just how they were able to manufacture runs.
Yeah, and then just to, I guess, answer Rachel's, I was one of those guys. I mean, again, I will go back to I think Madrigal should lead off with that, ability to contact. That was my thought process going in. So him at 2, it's not too much different than him leading off. So I still think you give him that opportunity for at least a little bit and see what he can do. And then if you think Nico needs to get moved up, if Ross thinks Nico needs to get moved up later on or things happen,
a lot of teams will play like their best player in the 2-hole though. Like as far as like their 5 tool, that's why Chris Bryant was batting second most of that 2016 season. So that's why I've always, like when we did like our opening day lineup projection, I think I had both Madrigal and Horner like somewhere I think I had Horner 7, Madrigal 9 or something like that. That's why I kind of like Schwindel getting a shot in the 2-hole because I just think I wouldn't say he's the best hitter on the Cubs, but like if you can put Happ in 3, then you get the righty in the 2-hole. They're both like similar players in my opinion, but Madrigal in the 2-hole is fine too, just because of what he brings to the table.
Yeah, just that.
If I had to choose, if I were to take Madrigal out of the 2, I would put Schwindel in the 2nd hole, just because I just like his approach and what he does, and he also offers power. Not saying that he's the best player on the Cubs, but again, his Saturday was pretty solid, and you could see why the potential of what he could bring for the entire year.
You know who I'd like to see next in the lineup? PointsBet. PointsBet is what I would like to see next in the lineup.
You want to take it? Yeah, sure.
Like to take that
All right, yeah. PointsBet. I'm gonna try to match what Cody did earlier. But if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all our web content. And you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com. We'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. Grandpa Stucky did it. You can too. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Ferris wants to know what happened to the Geritol read. We don't have that sponsorship yet, Ferris. We're working on it. We have a little bit more left from our mailbag from the members-only Discord. Some good questions today, I really think. CH Cubby wants to know, do you guys like this PitchCom device that teams have been implementing this season? Concerns here are, defense might be able to hear, and they will be able to hear, and then their positioning could give away to the batter if they move too quickly. Well, that's for any at bat, and has nothing to do with signals. Obviously, you're showing a little bit of your hand when you're positioning. I wouldn't worry about then don't move too early. That's the answer to that.
The thing.
I think the funnier thing is, I haven't heard this answered yet. I saw the Brewers doing it, and you hear curveball, and then what happens when Jake Arrieta or somebody, obviously he's not on the team, I know, shakes him off 6 times? What happens? Does he go back into his hand? No, slider. What do they do? They just shake it off, and then the guy goes back to the button. I really think so. There's going to be some things worked out. I don't know why the Cubs aren't using it. I know David Ross wasn't totally into it yet, but
I think he just said that the catchers
weren't comfortable yet, right?
Weren't comfortable yet. I don't have an issue either which way, if you use it, if you don't. Because
if it speeds up the game, I'm all for it.
Oh, if it speeds up the game and the catchers and the pitchers don't have good, they just don't they don't like, or if it speeds up the game and they don't have an issue with it as they're doing it, sure, use it. If you like the traditional, put the sign down, whatever, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I don't have a good have an issue with it. I don't love it. I don't.
Another issue, another potential issue with it is like if it starts breaking up and you're trying to or French fries.
The signal goes or it gets too loud, like when the quarterbacks can't hear.
What?
If it gets too loud in the stadium, like when the quarterbacks can't hear.
That's right. You don't know. You don't know.
You never know.
So we've got Smiley against Quintana. When we get going on Tuesday, try and touch up one of their old teammates. And I'd like to see that
Quintana revenge game.
Yeah, Quintana revenge game.
Yeah, because he didn't make it to the Giants series last year. I think he wasn't at Wrigley for that Giants series last year when they came. No, he was on that team also. He would have made.
Was he? I thought he started the year with the Angels.
He got traded. Right? Okay, maybe I remember.
He had a terrible season last year. DFA?
Yeah, he got DFA and he got picked up by the Giants. I'm fairly certain.
Interesting. All right.
I feel like I remember talking to Kapler about that, and Quintana maybe. Okay, I'd have to go back and look at it, but he would have made his Wrigley return also at some point last year and wasn't in town. So
I'd like to see him touch up Quintana, and
I think we all would.
Because he's a Buick.
Yeah, because he's a Buick.
Cap says he's a Buick. By the way, a CH Cubby also was asking about Al's alive. He comes back, and I think we sort of addressed that before the season. We all think like if he needs to be eased into it, then he might come back and do some relief work and kind of be worked in. But I think the general thought is you don't lose a spot in the rotation, and if the Cubs thought he had a spot in the rotation, that's where they would prefer him to be.
Yeah.
So I think it sort of depends on the injury and the recovery and the rehab. So.
Yeah, that's what I would say. If he can come back and be be able to go right into the rotation, that's great. That's what
they want to find out about him. That's the first thing they'd like to find out.
So if not, then he'd be a decent bullpen arm as well. So I hope he can go back in the rotation. That's where the Cubs need him most.
Nothing less than 2 against the Pirates.
Yeah. So
now when you get 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, you then go ahead and get 2 against the Pirates.
Right. As far as Quintana, I was always someone who was like, he was serviceable. He did what he was supposed to do. He just didn't live up to number 1 starter level, which is what the Cubs traded for basically, and trading Eloy and Dylan Cease. But the one thing that teams, or one thing I always felt like when I watched him was like he's just like nibble around the strike zone. So
sure,
I could see him getting with the way that the Cubs are patient so far this season. I could see the Cubs working some walks tomorrow, manufacture some runs, hop on him early. I don't want to stress tomorrow against a team that's probably only going to win 60 games. Just win tomorrow.
Free game early too.
So
yeah.
August 30th, Quintana was claimed off waivers. The Giants claimed him off waivers. On September 10th, which was the first day of that Giants series, he was placed on the paternity list, and he didn't get activated till September 13th. So I was completely right. My memory is amazing. He was not in time. He didn't make his Wrigley return for that.
To be 25 and have a great memory.
He did not make that Wrigley return.
Those were the days.
As Chris Bryant did it. So good.
That's it. This was fun. Our first mailbag. We'll try to do it on Mondays.
Yeah, we're going to try and do the mailbag.
See if we can keep that consistent.
Yeah, we'll see.
Monday mailbag. It was, I think, successful the first time around. Thank you for dropping in to check out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Don't forget our pregame show is at 2:30 on Tuesday. Cubs get ready to take on the Pirates. The first place Cubs get ready to take on the Pirates. Take care and fly the W.